Relay Project.
Real Talk starts right now. Here's Ryan Jespersen.
Welcome to another episode of Real Talk, where it has never been so easy to determine what we're going to be talking about, John Hicks. I don't know if Alberta politics has ever been crazier. You know what? This is going to turn into a drinking game. Every single time that a talk show host says, I don't know if Alberta politics has ever been this crazy, everybody needs to raise their glass of Hanson Mini Eggs cream liqueur or whatever you've got rocking.
Here we go.
But has it ever been this crazy in Alberta politics? Yes, it has.
It's never been this crazy. I mean, it has, but I tell you one thing. It's never been easier to be a political podcaster.
Isn't that true? Well, what do you think we're going to talk about today?
I'm guessing.
I don't know.
Rahim has some opinions on the data leak.
Raheem
just off the top of my head. He's
of the
laughing
National
right now.
Post is going to join us in just a second. We figured we'd better get a voice from a so-called conservative outlet, so everybody realizes that across the board, and I'm not going to put words in our guest's mouth, and he can evaluate this scenario as he chooses. We're also going to talk about the appointment of a new governor general. Mm-hmm. The West continues to be frozen out of the GG's office.
And we can also end on some light stuff. The Leafs got a little turn of fate.
Yes. Nothing better than watching the Vancouver Canucks get
lose
screwed.
The draft lottery.
We'll get to that before the end of the episode. I check in on our live chat here, powered by Park Power. And, if you listen to our podcast, if you watch this YouTube episode later, thank you very much. A huge shout out to our Real Talkers that join us, some of them every day for our live stream. They're watching this happen live, courtesy of California Closets across different social media platforms. And Kathy's tuned in on YouTube right now, and she just says, this story is getting wilder and wilder. She wonders, do we think this might actually force the UCP to call an early election or force the feds to actually step in? I would say no and no, but I do think that the call to Danielle Smith, the demand on behalf of, I'm sure, what is a growing number of people to scrap this October 19th referendum is growing. Jen Gerson joined us, co-founder of The Line, in our most recent episode, the 5th of May. By the way, how did I go through a 90-minute episode without mentioning Cinco de Mayo even once? I'm not sure. I think I just didn't
want... It's a new age.
I didn't want to be thinking about... We're all grows up. I didn't want to be thinking about margaritas and tacos during such an important conversation. But Jen Gerson, in all seriousness, says the revelations around the leak of the sensitive data, not phone book data, Supriya Dwivedi made that very clear and differentiated between the two. Don't be gaslit on this one. But the release of that data on behalf of a separatist organization that allegedly received that voter information list, that Alberta electors list, it's called, from a political party. It's suspected. You see how I'm being really careful here? It's suspected that it was the Republican Party of Alberta, a separatist party in Alberta, that shared that data. Has, of course, got everybody talking across the country because it's egregious. Number one, it's illegal to share a list of voter data. And number two, there's about 1 million reasons why this could be and already is harming many Albertans. This is a betrayal of trust. We know that. But the plot thickens, and we're going to get into this with Rahim in just a moment. It has been revealed that 2 senior UCP officials, one of them on staff, one of them the president of the party, attended an online meeting of those separatists, the organizers around this Centurion Project. That's the website that leaked the data. Now, you may immediately jump and say, listen, there's justification for staffers within the government to be privy to or to even observe these types of meetings so the government can kind of keep tabs on what's going on. That's the line the government's taking on this, but the official opposition isn't buying it. And then there's Alberta's former premier, Jason Kenney, who I would say has a bee in his bonnet, but that would probably be a little bit too glib, a little bit too flippant. While I don't speak for the former federal cabinet minister, the former premier of Alberta. I certainly don't speak for Jason Kenney, but I can tell that he's pretty pissed off when it was revealed that his personal data was put up on screen and shared as an example to attendees of these meetings on how they can search for data and what they can do with it. Alberta's premier threatening legal action now. The plot thickens. We're going to get into this with Raheem Mohamed. We'll talk about Canada's new Governor General and more. Plus, we'll get to your take on this in just a moment. Before we do, our friends at Hansen Distillery have Mother's Day all figured out for you, friends. It's a big week for Hansen, and that includes a brand new gin. It's distilled by her. I love the label. I love the story behind it. This specialty gin was crafted by Hansen's very own assistant distiller, Cassidy. Cassidy's rules, her palate, her way, and it shows. Fresh strawberry, bright grapefruit, rose petals, chamomile, and a long, warm finish of spice and garden herbs. This is a bold, jammy, floral, and she's saying unapologetic gin. I love it. If you're still figuring out your Mother's Day, this is your answer. The gift for the woman who doesn't settle for ordinary. You can purchase Distilled by Her gin online. You just want to go check out the shop link at hansendistillery.com, or of course you can find it in their beautiful tasting room. I love that. If you're anywhere near Edmonton, you'll find them on 174th Street, 111th Avenue, right across the street from Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. And on May 16th, coming right up, we don't necessarily recommend combining those two visits.
I was just going to say, buy a Benz, but do not drive it off the lot if you went to Hansen before.
Fair enough. Both valued partners, occasional collaborators, but sometimes under different contexts, we recommend separate visits. You can also find Hansen, of course, as mentioned, at the tasting room or at fine liquor stores, wherever you find the best Alberta spirits. Hansen Distillery is online at hansendistillery.com. It is made right here. Raheem Mohamed covers federal politics and keeps an eye on the goings-on in the West. For the National Post, a wonderful friend of this show, joining us right now in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Nice to see your face. I want to get ahead of this before you rip me, before you chastise me, before you grind my gears. I don't know why it's been so long since you've been on the show, but it's nice to have you back.
Yeah, last time we spoke was under pretty somber circumstances. I think it was the day of the Tumbler Ridge mass shooting. It was like a virtual kind of hugging it out sort of thing. It has been a bit longer than I prefer, but it's always great to be on with Jespo. I think, which I think is Alberta's premier political talk show. And I think if you're anyone in Alberta, this is the spot you want to land, or anyone Alberta adjacent. This is the spot. This is where you want to be.
We love to hear that, buddy. And that's not just because you know that by professing your appreciation for this show, we're probably going to send you a bottle of Distilled by Her gin from Hansen Distillery.
So actually my wife is 40 days out from her due date, so I could send over the baby registry. I think that would be more a more immediate need right now. Maybe you could put it in the link to the show, the Raheem Mohamed baby registry. But I appreciate that. And actually, I'm out of solidarity with the wife. I'm abstaining from alcohol.
Attaboy.
Attaboy.
Well, we got 2-ounce baby bottles too. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking.
Is there any luxury? Are there any we'll get serious in a second here, but are there any luxury items on the baby registry?
Not that we know of. We're big like Fisher Price educational toy people and just kind of practical. A lot of diapers. So we're trying to be pragmatic.
Okay, can I put something on your radar, and I'd like to share this with Real Talkers as well, because this will absolutely change your life. Johnny, we can show my screen here. Raheem, what we're showing here, we're not paid to show this. This is just based on my personal experience. This is called the SNOO. This is the SNOO, and this is a moving white noise offering bassinet that we utilized with our most recent arrival. This would have been 3.5 years ago now. Boy, does time ever fly. But if you want, as you see, the babe is all swaddled and it's strapped in. The thing is an absolute jewel. And we're grateful for every single cent that we invested in the SNOO. So it is a bit of a luxury item. But is this your family's first?
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. So make a note about.
I guess it's Baby Talk with Ryan Jespersen.
Baby Talk with Ryan Jespersen.
I'm all for it, but so we got a little bassinet that's got a little canopy underneath for stuff, but our cat has kind of colonized that.
Yes.
So we have like our first photo of the baby kind of sleeping on top and the cat sleeping on the bottom, just locked and loaded.
I like that. If all hell breaks loose, you keep in mind the snoo and you remember where you heard it. I would also point out with our coverage of this wild political story out of Alberta, and it is a troubling story. I don't want to roll into it snickering because this is a big deal. We've been called worse things, Rahim, over the past 48 hours than Baby Talk with Jespo. Yesterday it was Commie Talk, which I can understand. There are ardent Alberta separatists that don't appreciate the attention that they're receiving right now, and they definitely don't appreciate the assertion that maybe, just maybe, this petition, which they claim has about 300,000 signatures on it, looking to trigger a referendum, may have lost the trust of anybody that was still trusting the process now that everything's been blown out into the wide open. From your perch, keeping an eye on this story remotely, so to speak, outside of Alberta, where's your head at on it right now?
Sure. So I think one thing that wasn't expressly mentioned with Jen Gerson yesterday, and I think one thing that's very important, is anything along the lines of falsifying signatures or data is an incredibly serious offense under election law. We're talking $500,000 to $1 million fines, jail time in some instances. So, if this is something that the Stay Free Alberta petitioners or adjacent groups, we're dabbling in. This is a very serious deal, and you think these folks, they're eccentric individuals, but they're professionals as well. Jeff Rath is a highly practiced and experienced lawyers. You think these folks would be aware going in of the risks and just how serious this type of activity is under criminal law. Yeah,
I mean, I would say that Jeff's Rath political, or rather his legal career, has also been mired in controversy, and people can Google him and see what I'm talking about. Also, they would want us to point out that Mitch Sylvester is the driving force behind Stay Free Alberta, and Jeff Rath is the Alberta Prosperity Project guy, and David Parker is the Take Back Alberta guy and the Centurion Project guy. All of them working toward a common goal, and I'm not trying to drive or nail down a storyline if it doesn't make sense. But I think folks driven by common sense, one iota even of common sense, are looking at this and going, man, this has sure muddied the waters around what people need to have confidence in, a process that people need to have confidence in, and that's not the case right now. We've discussed this with Supriya Dwivedi and Jen Gerson over the past couple of episodes, but you're the first one that we're talking to on the heels of Naheed Nenshi, the Alberta NDP leader's post proclaiming, announcing to Alberta and the rest of Canada that Alberta's NDP caucus has obtained video evidence that appears to show, and the UCP has acknowledged it, a senior member of their party executive, the party president, and a member of their caucus staff, as a matter of fact, a casual acquaintance of mine who's appeared on my talk shows over the past 15 years in a recurring role, attended an online meeting of the Centurion Project, which provided training to volunteers on how to use that project's database. This is the data we're talking about, the leaked data that's at the center of this breach of 3 million Albertans' electoral data. They call out by name Rob Smith and Arandeep Sandhu in attendance. Now, the UCP, to bring the audience up to speed if they've not been paying attention, which I highly doubt, has responded to this and said caucus staff regularly attend events of political interest, including the meeting of question. The organizers of that meeting were adamant that the data being used was obtained legally at the time, says the government. This is the UCP's official statement here. The staff observing the meeting had no reason to believe the website in question was unlawful. I think that with the benefit of the doubt, you could justify these two individuals observing. The word participating is a bit loaded here, observing this. But at the same time, man, there should be a wall. I'm imagining the Great Wall of China or some other big barrier, maybe the U.S.-Mexico border. There should be some division, you would hope, between the government and this project. Your thoughts on these two individuals' involvement?
So one weird thing about getting into politics in my 20s and now inching toward my 40s is, I've known folks, for a decade and change that are now, kind of bold-faced names in political scandals. So R&D is someone I've known for more than a decade. I first met him in 2014. I believe he was 25 years old, driving kind of Jim Prentice around as an advanced person for the progressive conservatives. And one thing I know about R&D is he is a political animal. So the last time I spoke with R&D, it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was pretty engaged and interested in the BC conservative leadership race. He was following that quite closely and had some takes on that. So he is someone I could see kind of logging on to one of these things. And one thing that came up with Jen Gerson yesterday is, political parties aren't supposed to share lists, but kind of list sharing is such an open secret. And, it's so normalized, specifically within these kind of informal sort of leadership petition campaigns, that potentially it didn't quite clock in that, folks on that call were looking at something they weren't supposed to be looking at. So again, it's something that is just how these kind of rough and tumble, more independent, kind of less well-regulated races, you tend to have a normalized broking and sharing of voter lists, certainly not elector data that officially, comes from Elections Alberta. Potentially alarm bells weren't rung when they ought to have been.
The Jason Kenney angle on this is pretty interesting. And, there's been a longstanding beef between David Parker and Jason Kenney. For reference, I mean, to sum it up in one sentence, David Parker basically takes credit for running Jason Kenney out of office. Whether that was accurate or not, there are probably some indicators that the pressure that Take Back Alberta applied, in particular around COVID mandates, did add to Jason Kenney's headaches at a very difficult political time. But it has been revealed that his personal information was used as an example of how this website, how this database could function. Kenney posting on X just a short time ago, yesterday afternoon at 4:20, by the way. I understand that my personal information, including my home address, was shared publicly on a screen at a recent Alberta Separatist event. It was also recorded on video and is now circulating. You can imagine how choked he'd be. He says this was apparently part of the outrageous data leak of Albertans' private information. He goes on to talk about it, says, over the past few years, I've received no shortage of threats from people broadly associated with the separatist anti-vax far-right movement in Alberta. So it's disturbing that my personal information is now broadly available, particularly in those circles. Yeah, no kidding. He says, while I have been targeted specifically, the broader data breach may also affect vulnerable Albertans, including victims of domestic violence, journalists, activists, judges, and other public servants for years to come. And he's absolutely correct. Kenney says, I will retain legal counsel to seek advice on recourse regarding this outrageous and potentially dangerous violation of my personal privacy. There's a bunch of social media tough guys that talk a lot about suing and see, this sounds like defamation. And, we encounter that all the time. It's typically frivolous and often a joke. I would suggest when Jason Kenney's pissed off and is talking about retaining legal counsel, and he's worked at a law firm for quite some time and knows the most powerful people in Canada, he's going to do exactly what he said. But how does this change the game in your estimation?
So I think Jason Kenney is also someone who's always looking at a political angle. I don't believe he's done with politics. I think he's still only in his mid-50s. There are rumors all the time here in Ottawa of him potentially organizing to outflank or replace Pierre Poilievre, clandestinely, etc. And obviously, you don't want to downplay the personal threat that he's facing. I mean, I'm sure, he's being 100% straightforward in conveying, the threats that he's received by, the anti-vax fringe, by some of the fringe elements in the separatist movement. But this also puts him back in the headlines, kind of heading up the pro-Canada side at a time when Naheed Nenshi kind of had that area cornered. He launched the what was it? Alberta for Canada, Canada for Alberta, powered by the NDP, which I still don't get how all those parts work together. So this is something that absolutely Jason Kenney is taking it seriously. He's lawyering it up. But he's also likely happy to have an angle to put himself at the front of that kind of pro-Canada narrative again.
Yeah, in your estimation, what does this story, which is easily one of the political stories of the year in Canada, and one of the wildest Alberta political stories in recent memory, which is saying something, Rahim? I mean, last week we were talking about gerrymandering. The week before we're talking about...
Carrie Tate, as you saw, got named Journalist of the Year a few weeks ago, for breaking the Sam Raich the health procurement contract. So I mean, Alberta is just for whatever reason, it's been red hot. These past few years in generating national headlines.
Hey, by the way, with Carrie Tate winning that national journalism award, which is a huge deal, I'm sure it wasn't lost on you or anybody else that was paying attention. It wasn't just for the caliber, the quality of her reporting. It wasn't the fact that she's broken stories consistently along that alleged health care scandal, that procurement scandal, but specifically she was recognized for continuing to press on despite the fact that she was being followed, harassed, and threatened. And I thought that was a pretty big deal to see that noted with a Canadian Journalism Prize recognizing work conducted on Canadian soil.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean that certainly is something. It's not just the caliber of your work, but also the courage of chasing a story, with those sorts of obstacles in your way.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so what does this do, though, to the whole movement? Jen says yesterday the Premier's got to call off this referendum, says this is her out. She's got to call this off. I happen to notice, and I mean, to be quite honest, it's always nice to see when this happens. I would argue the incomparable Andrew Coyne. I've always been an Andrew Coyne fan. Appreciated him sharing our content yesterday. We asked the question, should Smith pull the plug on the October 19th referendum? None other than Andrew Coyne says, of course she should. It's hopelessly compromised. Do you agree or disagree with him?
So I think one lurking variable here is there's also the verified Thomas Lukaszuk petition that's potentially in the back pocket. So that one was above board. That one was collected, to a higher standard with a higher threshold than the Stay Free Alberta signature. And that one, I believe, is currently with a committee in the Alberta legislature that's deliberating kind of whether do we put this to a motion to be voted on by MLAs? Do we put this to a province-wide vote? So my maybe contrarian view is we have a situation in which Canada's national governing party, which is their words, not mine, they've engineered a permanent governing coalition that effectively cuts out Alberta. They could effectively not win a single MP in Alberta, from here on out and retain power in perpetuity. So Albertans basically do not have a voice through the first past the post system. Through the formal kind of democratic channels at the federal level. It's worth noting that last month at the Liberal convention, the party dropped changing the first past the post system from its platform. You'll remember when Justin Trudeau was first elected in 2015, he said this is the last Canadian federal election that's going to be contested under first past the post. So I don't know. I would agree with Jen Gerson that a kind of existential referendum on leaving Canada with no democratic mandate, that's not the path forward. But there does need to be a way for Alberta to express its legitimate grievances and have a voice despite that systematic and systemic underrepresentation within our representative institutions, especially since we're at a time where the Liberal Party seems to be saying, hey, these are democratic institutions that let us win 8 out of every 10 times. So clearly they're not terrible democratic institutions. So I do think something has to give in this respect. I would agree that an existential vote on leaving Canada is a bridge too far, but there needs to be some some mechanism for legitimate expression on the part of Albertans.
Yeah, I want to ask you, because we got to talk to the Governor General, and I know you got a bolt. Plus, we're heading in to check in on Wyatt Sharpe. Can you believe this? The teenage talk show host, the teenage
you got to have Wyatt Sharpe versus Wyatt Claypool. You can have kids
right?
on both sides.
Unbelievable! This kid's launching his own new show.
I think
Anyway,
Wyatt Claypool just looks like a teenager. He's a bit older, but but same energy.
Yeah, same energy. I don't want to burn my minutes with you talking about Wyatt. We'll talk to him in just a second. But it'd be interesting with Carney having Governor Bank of England right around the Brexit time. He's seen this stuff. I mean, Jen, if you listen to the interview, which it sounds like you did, she invoked Brexit like 3 or 4, maybe 5 times during that interview. Generally speaking, do you think that Carney's taking this seriously enough himself as as a not born but raised Alberta boy?
So, during Brexit, and I understand why this was the case, he was the Bank of England governor. He was kind of restricted in his parameters with how he could communicate to the public. But the arguments that he made were exclusively economic. Things are going to get worse for us economically if Britain were to separate from Europe. This is going to be a catastrophe for Britain's economy. I think with this sort of thing, it's more an emotional thing than an economic thing. There is the question of Alberta's economy and kind of what a post-Canada Alberta would look like. But there's also the question of belonging and representation. Do we see our own in the front benches of government? Do we see our own in sort of major symbolic offices like the Governor General? So I don't think either of us were born the last time an Albertan was in the Governor General's office. I look back sometimes at question period clips from the Harper years, and it feels like an entirely different universe to see, Jim Prentice, Ronna Ambrose, Jason Kenney, all in the front benches. So I hope, we have the Stampede coming up in July. I really hope Carney will use this opportunity for kind of a love-in with Alberta. So the argument isn't just, hey, things are going to get exponentially worse for us economically if we leave Canada. It's, Alberta, you're valued, you improve Canada, you're a big part of who we are as a country. We appreciate you. And one thing that I did want to point out is Janet Brown did some fascinating polling on income demographics that are the most likely to support Alberta independence. The most supportive demographic are high income earners, so people that earn $150,000 a year or plus, but say they have trouble paying their bills. So if it's sort of more of an upper income skewing thing to begin with, I think those emotional kind of belonging, we value you arguments are going to go a lot further than, hey, this is going to be terrible for your economy.
Rahim, I've left us 2 minutes to talk about the Governor General. I'm sorry, man. We could talk about this Alberta story. We could talk about Mark Carney for 3 hours, but let's get to this real quick.
Well, I talked about it in a roundabout way, and I don't know if I was more disappointed with the Leafs getting the number 1 pick. I think there was a lot of excitement in Vancouver about potentially having a big 3 of Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini and Gavin McKinnon, all Western Canada boys.
Yes.
So I don't know if I was more disappointed on that than sort of yet another Quebecer being appointed Governor General. But I will say, the picks with Justin Trudeau were more symbolic. With Julie Payette, there was clearly, hey, we have a woman in STEM. We have an astronaut. Isn't this cool? With Mary Simon, it was really important to have the first Timax, to have the first Indigenous Governor General, but obviously her French language proficiency or lack thereof became a major concern. With Louise Arbour, in terms of her legal background, bilingualism, etc. This is about as safe a choice as you can make, and maybe playing it safe is the right call for now.
Okay, Rahim, I know you got a bolt. It's good to see your face. We promise
Likewise.
that it won't be too long before we bring you back. Hey, how long until you welcome the new arrival?
June 15th due date.
Awesome, buddy. We'll be thinking about you.
40 days out. T-minus 40 days.
Thank you for doing
Max
this.
will share the registry with you as well.
Yes.
Look for a DM on Blue Sky.
Yeah, Max Fawcett has popped into the chat, which is great. Rahim, I know you got to go. Thanks for doing this, brother. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Raheem Mohamed of the National Post in our feature interview presented by Mercedes-Benz Edmonton West. Johnny Infamous, giving the audience a little sneak peek of what we've got cooking here behind the scenes. So I see Max Fawcett in the chat taking issue with what Raheem Mohamed just said. Now, some of you would say, oh, now you're going to bring in Max to pile on Rahim, and Rahim's not going to be there to defend himself. That's not the case. I don't even know what Max is choked about in particular, but we're going to bring him in for a quick cameo, and I want to get ahead of this because some of you are going to say that I'm going to bring Max on, and then I'm going to treat him with baby gloves, and I'm not going to ask him about this Blacklock's report that has thrust Max's employer, Canada's National Observer, into the spotlight for government subsidies that has received, etc. I want to let you guys know, Real Talkers, that Max is booked on the show on the 19th of May for like an hour, and we're going to get into all of that. And we have Wyatt Sharpe coming up. But Max, it's good to see your face. Thanks for hopping into the Zoom. Thanks for hanging out in our live chat, powered by Park Power. Nice little surprise. Nice to know you don't only appear on the show when you're sharing your thoughts, but also to contribute to the conversation there. But we couldn't help but notice your name. I only saw in passing. What did you take issue with Rahim's argument there? What was it in particular?
Well, I was just taking issue with the idea that Albertans don't have a legitimate voice in government, that the Carney government has I think he said, a majority in perpetuity. This is the sort of whiny victimhood that underlies a lot of the separatist arguments. First of all, there are 2 Liberal MPs that are elected that represent the voice of Albertans. The current polls, if they hold, and they probably won't, suggest that it could be as many as 10 or 15, and we will have another election soon, and that is when Albertans get to express their voice. So this idea that people crossing the floor somehow creates a permanent majority that requires a separatist referendum is just too cute, not by half, but by all. It just isn't, to my mind, a very legitimate argument. But then again, none of the ones that the separatists make really are.
Are you saying that you think that next federal election that there could be 15 Liberal MPs out of Alberta?
No. I'm saying that if the current polls, out of Alberta, where you have the Liberals basically even or close to it, if that held, and again, I said I don't think it will, but yeah, you would see double-digit Liberal MPs. I think a realistic target is probably 5 to 8.
Yeah, they had 4 under Trudeau at one point.
Yep.
5's not crazy. 8 might be doable. Who knows? There's 37 total off the top of my head, I think, if I'm right, to give people a sense of what sort of share of the pie you'd be talking about there.
Yeah, exactly. And look, 5 to 8, that's good. But it's up to Albertans. They get to vote for who they want to vote for, and their voice is heard every election. I promise you, if you ask people in Ontario, if you ask people in BC, they feel like Albertans' voices are probably heard a little too much in Confederation. We have a very significant seat at the table. We have an MOU where we're getting a pipeline. Probably we're getting all of these inducements. The idea that our voice isn't heard is just kind of comical. If we were in Saskatchewan, you could, I guess, make that argument. Manitoba, sure. The territories, fine. The Maritimes, their voice probably isn't heard as much as it could be. But we're up there. We punch above our weight in terms of the share of population in this country.
Okay, this was an unexpected visit, so we're not going to, I don't want to burn off everything that you and I are going to talk about, and I'll let you know that I'll let the audience know, rather, that you and I are going to, the day after May long weekend, so it'll be the 19th, Tuesday the 19th, you're going to come back. We'll spend like an hour together. Let me just get a quick comment from you on Blacklock's reporter, the story Canada's National Observer receiving, and we'll spend more time on this. You've committed to having an open conversation about it, taking some comments from the audience, and we can dig deeper into media subsidies and government funding and what independent journalism should look like, etc. But they've shone a light on your employer, on Canada's National Observer, and the amount of government funding, media subsidies it's receiving, as well as the number of subscriptions that are being paid for by tax dollars, ostensibly for government employees. Generally speaking, your response to all of this, Max, of all of the contributing writers, photographers, editors, everybody at Canada's National Observer, they chose, Blacklock's did, to use your photo on everything that they released. Have you been feeling a bit of smoke over the last while?
Yeah, there's been some stuff on Twitter, and some folks have reached out. Look, it's a very handsome picture. I appreciate them using it. I think I look great in it. And they have had a beef with me for a while, and it's a fair beef. There was a thing where I wrote a story about them. They complained to the CBC. I think they handled their end of it pretty well, and they don't like me, and so they're going to use my picture because I'm the most identifiable person publicly who works for the National Observer. But let's be clear here, and we can get into it. I'll take all the questions the audience wants, in our interview in a couple of weeks. But our public funding is not a secret. It's right on our website. We disclose, where our funding comes from. It's about 20%, I think, of our overall budget. None of it goes to me, not a penny. I'm a profit center for the National Observer. Opinion columns are very popular and get a lot of page views, a lot of interest. The money is going to journalists, to reporters who are covering stories that otherwise wouldn't get covered. And I frankly think we need more public funding for reporters in this country, because reporting is no longer economically viable in the media and digital economic environment that we're in right now. And if we don't have local reporting, there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on in this country that we won't know about. Again, if you actually add up all of the federal subsidies that go to Host Media, Raheem Mohamed's employer, Torstar, they're much bigger than us, but they spread it across multiple publications because they have local papers, they have a national paper, whereas ours all just fall under the umbrella of National Observer. So that's why it looks like we get more than anyone else. But we're happy to take it. We think it funds important journalism. We stand behind unequivocally the work that those journalists do. I think they're some of the best in the country. And frankly, we need more support in this country for reporting, because that is the part of our media ecosystem that is going to die off without that kind of support. What we're doing here will always be viable. People love opinion, they love talk, they love controversy, but that sort of long resource intensive reporting that used to be funded by classified ads, that used to be funded by the things in the newspaper that are now controlled by Google and Facebook and all the other digital firms. That is not viable, and it will go away if we don't support it.
Okay, I've got lots of thoughts on this. We'll get into it on the 19th of May. Thanks for being a friend of the show, even when you're not in the spotlight, and thanks for popping in for a quick cameo, Max.
Sounds good. Always happy to pop in.
Yeah. Good thing he brushed his hair this morning, eh, Johnny? He just hops on air with 30 seconds notice, and there you have him, Max Fawcett. I want to get to your comments here in the live chat. We also have Wyatt Sharpe checking in. The show's moving fast today. We're going to take you out to Jasper. There's a lot going on. But Real Talkers, we will circle back on the Centurion Project story, on Jason Kenney's involvement, like not willing involvement, not consensual involvement. We can talk about your thoughts on UCP's president and a senior member of their team virtually attending. They would probably say observing a meeting of organizers, explaining how it can all work. I don't think inherently that is egregious or necessarily bad. I think that to a certain degree, you can explain that one away. It's a lot different than, for example, doxing a former premier and putting his information up there in a video and then releasing the video for all to see. Two different stories. But I would say that it's a tough situation for the Alberta government, because the minute that these stories start to kind of, Johnny, it's like those shots, like what are the shots like that you get on the beach in Mexico, and there's like maybe
Sex
there's like
on the beach,
blue curacao on the bottom, and then there's a little bit of like white cream, and then there's
Superman,
and then they've got the like mystery green look, and it all kind of and then once it starts to blend in, once they start to seep into one another, it doesn't look good for anybody.
Here's your everyman, your average intelligence guy right here. This, at the very least, it's sketchy, right? Like everyone's saying right now, oh, it doesn't matter. The UCP and Centurion aren't connected. Fine. But if this roles were reversed, and I'm not saying like unions are in bed with the NDP, but let's say the NDP was,
some of them are.
Let's say the NDP was virtually attending a union meeting where nefarious stuff like this was going on, looking at illegally obtained voter lists. And let's say the NDP was like, even if it's virtually attending this, people on the right would be screaming their heads off.
Losing their minds.
So to say that like, oh, we didn't know. Are you telling me, Ryan, you've been in politics, you've been PR, you've been media a long time. Even if someone says we didn't know that the database included a legally obtained voter list, people behind the scenes talk. PR talks to PR, media talks to media. People say things in back doors and bathrooms and bars. There is no frickin' way that these people in politics connected with the UCP didn't get wind of this somehow.
Oh, and of course, if there is overlap, undeniably and obviously, don't ask me to name names and point fingers and start coming up with what's the Charlie, what's his nuts gif that everybody uses with all the red yarns on the map, and he's doing the conspiracy theory and waving his arms around.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. But at the same time, there are separatists within the UCP. There are people that are friends with folks and organizers with all of these separatist groups. The separatist groups have the ear of lawmakers in Alberta, whether or not they're writing their policies, whether or not they're assigning them duties. I don't think that that's accurate nor reasonable to say, but let's not pretend that there is a total separation here. Let's not pretend like everybody doesn't actually know what's going on. More on this as the show progresses. That is a promise. It's a fiery one, but we are going to check in with Wyatt Sharpe in less than 2 minutes. Johnny, let's get that trailer locked and loaded. Before we check in with Wyatt, I want to let you know that if you're flying through Edmonton International Airport, you need to know about YEG Plus. This is Canada's first ever airport loyalty program. It's simple. You earn 1 point for every dollar you spend at the airport. Couldn't be more simple than that. That could be parking, grabbing a bite to eat, maybe those early morning beers at Chili's, maybe a little mimosa, maybe doing some shopping before your flight. As your points build, you move up tiers and you unlock perks like bonus nights, partner discounts, even free parking. How nice would that be? You can redeem your points for gift cards, exclusive offers, and more. So the next time you're at YEG, make sure you're getting rewarded. Sign up today. I signed up on Monday. It took me 10 seconds. That's YEGplus.com/realtalk. YEGplus.com/realtalk. Now, you may not be thinking about switching up or changing out your financial advisor. Most people don't think about doing that. Why would you? You've built up trust over years of conversation and decisions. That confidence matters, of course. But what happens when your advisor decides to retire? For a lot of families, the advisor's the plan. And when that person steps away, it can mean sudden changes, unfamiliar faces, maybe decisions you never expected to make. North Road Investment Council was designed to take that risk off the table. They're structured as a team, so your financial plan isn't dependent on any single individual. You also don't have to switch advisors to get started with North Road. They can work with you on a fee-only basis without moving assets, without disrupting your current setup, to help you build a plan that prepares you for what's ahead. Why not get a second set of eyes on your investment or retirement strategy? We trust North Road Investment Council, and I recommend you reach out to them at northroadic.com. That's where you can connect with Marshall, Carey, and the team. That's northroadic.com. Johnny, later this week, I'm going to be heading out to the Ranch Golf and Country Club for my very first 18 of the season. I'm expecting to shoot around 30 over par, crush a couple of hot dogs, maybe a taco in a bag on the turn. We love being out at the ranch, and not just because this is one of the best courses in the province of Alberta to play, but also because of their team, because of the vibes out at the ranch. That's why we bring our Real Talk Golf Classic out there as well. This year, it's Thursday, June 18th. You can register your foursome at ryanjespersen.com/events. The Ranch is one of Alberta's premier public golf courses just on the outskirts of Edmonton. I can tell you it is 19 minutes from our downtown Mercer Warehouse studio. It's right there. It's a joy to play. Nobody does it like the Ranch. If you're planning a golf tournament this summer, make sure you reach out to them. Let them know Real Talk sent you at theranchgolf.com. And very cool to connect with our friends at Solar by Kubi. Just yesterday, in studio, they swung on by talking to us about what's happening in their neck of the woods. Of course, now that spring has sprung, their installers are up on roofs, installing solar panels on farms, on industrial applications, commercial buildings, office towers, and of course, installing on thousands of homes. You know, Kubi's Western Canada's busiest and cleanest solar installer. They do a magnificent job. They're renowned for what they bring to the table as a company powered by people. You can learn more about achieving your green energy goals. Get a free solar quote today by visiting kuby.ca. That's KUBY.ca. More of your comments on the top political stories of the day, in particular out of Alberta. Also, if you have a hot take and you're watching this live on the appointment of Canada's new Governor General, make sure you pop that into our live chat powered by Park Power right now. It's just such a pleasure. We just feel so proud of this young man for what he continues to achieve. Wyatt Sharpe has been a friend of the show since our inception, and this week he's launched his very own. Check it out.
Power lives here, decisions that shape our world. But most of us never get a seat at the table. Our generation didn't create the system, but we're the ones who have to live with the consequences. Now we're inside, and it's time we started asking our own questions. This isn't just their conversation anymore, it's ours.
That is the launch, the official trailer for the Sharpe Exchange, a brand new show hosted by our very good friend, Wyatt Sharpe. Wyatt, look at that smile on your face, buddy. Take it all in. I know what it feels like to launch a show. I don't know what it feels like to launch a show before my 18th birthday, but how are you feeling right now?
Yeah, super great. It's been kind of in the works over the course of the past few months, and it's really a combination of what I've been doing since I was about 11 years old in terms of interviews with political figures and elected officials. And the nice thing about this one is it's kind of doing what you do in a sense in terms of bringing it to people in a different medium, specifically in this case, the medium that Gen Z is consuming their news, and that's through online digital platforms like YouTube and TikTok and some of the other social media platforms that are out there, and really bringing Gen Z voices into conversations and into rooms that perhaps they otherwise wouldn't be allowed in or they wouldn't be welcomed in is certainly one of the main focal points here.
I love that, and you've got to you understand what you're doing on gleaning attention and creating interest. Your very first episode, you welcome the mooch. You got Anthony Scaramucci among other guests in your very first episode. Give us a sense of the audience you aim to serve. We know it's Gen Z. Mm-hmm. Is this a global talk show? Is this a North American talk show? You split your time between Toronto and DC, don't you?
Yeah, I go to DC quite a bit. A lot of it, I think, with this new show is kind of recognizing that we want to bring Gen Z voices, as you say, into the conversation while also still talking to some of the serious power players that are the ones who make the decisions and are the ones who hold the power. And so what that means is having some of the typical political voices like Anthony Scaramucci on, or like Scott McFarlane, who's a former CBS News correspondent who's also coming up on our first episode, while also having a Gen Z panel every week where it's different Gen Z social media influencers and Gen Z political commentators on both sides of the aisle providing their perspective and their opinions. And I think a lot of what happens in the United States is certainly going to be the main focus point of the show in terms of covering U.S. politics, but as we've seen over the course of the last few months, very much Canadian politics and American politics are intertwined, and everything that happens in the United States, it seems, kind of has a way of trickling down and having like a trickle down effect on Canada as well. So very much kind of focusing on our two countries and interviewing people on both sides of the aisle. And again, trying to help people make sense of the news in an accessible way.
Are you still going to school? How does this all work?
I'm at school right now. I'm in my school library. I was, it was funny. I was on Ben Mulrooney to kind of launch the show, and I called in from a track and field meet. So you just got to do it all at once. You know, you got to kind of recognize what's important. For me, this is important. And so make time for it and have fun while doing it.
Incredible. You know what I'm looking forward to, Wyatt, is 15 years from now when I'm ready for retirement, when your media empire comes in, John, they're going to acquire us. Wyatt, we'll negotiate the price. You can buy us out. I'm looking forward to this. I'll work for you 15 years down the road.
Buy the studio when we're 60.
Buy our studio. Set us free into the pasture. In all seriousness, I can see on YouTube, and we encourage people to subscribe to your show. Again, that's the Sharpe Exchange, Sharpe with an E, the Sharpe Exchange on YouTube. Is that the primary platform here for release? I'm curious to know, like, where do you meet Gen Z? Do you get it on TikTok? Are you on Snapchat? I know that I sound 85 years old right now, but what's the strategy? I'm curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the launch of the show, just to kind of first set the stage, was built out of a feeling that obviously very few people in general, but specifically in my generation, are sitting at the couch at 6 o'clock with the TV watching the traditional news broadcast. And so a lot of that is because news now, people get notifications on their phone, they find it on social media. And so it becomes kind of repetitive for people to sit down and watch the standard typical news broadcast. And so what the show is less of a, here's the headlines and more of a holding kind of the people in power accountable. And so I think for young people, when they're watching a show like this in terms of on YouTube and on TikTok, they really want to get their news in ways that don't necessarily feel as linear as in terms of like how traditional broadcasts have presented it in the past. So yeah, YouTube is kind of the primary one. Just to answer your question, I think Gen Z gets a lot of kind of content on there, whether it's on their recommended pages or whether they're looking for political content. And I do actually think that young people are interested in politics, even if those in power dismiss them as, having apathy towards the system. I think a lot of it comes down to a question of disillusionment and the fact that they feel as if political systems haven't been working in their favor. So, by putting the show on YouTube, it meets them where they are. It's accessible for them. And then, on TikTok, they can find short clips of it as well. And it is understanding that Gen Z and young people, they, like many other demographics, lead busy lives. And, they want to have access to hard-hitting interviews in shorter, kind of more accessible ways, which you do so wonderfully as well.
Kind of you to say. What is the Trump presidency in your estimation? I mean, I'm now going to ask you to comment on a population closing in on 400 million people. I mean, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of perspectives, but generally speaking, what have you observed of how the Trump presidency is landing with young people of your vintage and the impact that he's having on the next generation of voters?
It's interesting. I mean, if you asked me this question in 2024, around the time of the election, I would have said that Joe Biden's kind of cognitive decline and what's happening with respect to his age and some of the Democrat insiders who were coming out and speaking out against him. And then obviously, conversely, Donald Trump, despite being the same age, despite having a number of the same cognitive problems, according to experts, he still resonated with Gen Z in ways, I think, because he was kind of unscripted and his team did a fairly effective job in terms of the messaging and social media. Whereas now, if you ask me that question, I think they're starting to turn against him, even those that voted for him in 2024, because of things like the Epstein files and how they've been handled. And of course, he fired his attorney general, Pam Bondi, in many ways because of that. If you look to the situation with Iran, a lot of Gen Z and a lot of members of my generation feel as if this is a pointless kind of no-win war that's just more of the same kind of Bush-style Republican era politics. And so it's a combination of those factors. It's also, another factor is the cost of living and affordability. He said he was going to bring down the cost of gasoline, and in many cities in DC and around the country, they're higher than they were under President Biden now. So I think a lot of it is broken promises that Gen Z feel have not been met. And so they're not necessarily as inclined to support someone like him. And the Democrats, again, I was talking to Anthony Scaramucci about this on the first episode. The Democrats have a real opportunity to kind of capitalize on what's happening here, but they need to run on something other than a lack of interest in kind of what Donald Trump is doing. They need to run for something rather than just against Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I'll remind people, this audience already knows, but Anthony Scaramucci, the former White House comms director, for a minute, for a brief period of time. I think it was literally like 2 weeks. But still, I thought it was interesting. Days. 11 days? It's got to be the short. It's got to be the shortest. That's got to be the shortest tenure, even in the for anybody in the Trump administration. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a few.
I think so.
But I mean, it's right up there, or it's right down there, you might say. On X, just the other day, posts Scaramucci. I got to ask you about your interview with him. He says Trump likes eating his young. He says he'll destroy Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance before this term is over. He says, don't believe me? Call Mike Pence. Ask how his political career is going. The Mooch says, but here's the nuance on Vance. He wasn't a proponent of this war. He tried to distance himself.
Yeah.
His brand of disengagement ending forever war is still somewhat intact. He says Vance can at least make the case if the war goes badly that he saw it coming. He muses about whether or not Vance runs again in 2028, but says, bigger picture, this is an anti-incumbent environment. He talks about Democrats versus Republicans in power, says this feels like the Democrats' moment. The opportunity is right there. What struck you in your conversation with him? What can you tell us in advance of releasing that episode?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I mean, he did kind of lean into some of what he posted there on X, with respect to where the Republican movement is going. If you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who obviously at one point was one of the most vocal supporters of President Trump and now is speaking out against him on Iran and on Epstein and on other issues as well. He had actually pointed out and had mentioned a moment of Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about how people like Donald Trump and Susie Wiles and James Blair, some of those kind of key West Wing staffers, had cut her out of discussions. Meanwhile, people like JD Vance had still tried to bring her voice into the fold. So that was interesting just because it kind of paints like a very visceral picture of where 2028 is going to go in terms of whether that be the nominee, whether that be some of the other down ballot races that are likely to take shape as well. And I think it really, again, paints this picture of what people in the Republican Party want, because if it was 2024, people were very much embracing the MAGA movement. They were embracing some of the key architects behind that. Whereas now, I think, and he kind of alluded to this as well, there's becoming an increasingly clear kind of gap that needs to be filled and that someone has the potential to fill with respect to someone who has a number of the same policy positions that Trump had, but is willing to enact them and therefore can then resonate with Gen Z and with other voting blocs who feel disillusioned by many of the decisions that Trump has made.
Wyatt, you've checked in with us before from the grounds of the White House, and I know that you've interviewed decision makers and lawmakers in the halls of power many, many times, 500 plus interviews already under your belt before your 18th birthday, which truly is remarkable. And I know that you pride yourself on getting the scuttlebutt, on getting a sense of what's happening down there. Every Canadian is looking for answers on timelines around the CUSMA renegotiations. Mark Carney, generally speaking, starting to feel amplified pressure, including from opposition leader Pierre Poilievre, on deliverables, on coming clean with Canadians, on where Canada's actually at, who holds the cards, what's on the table, what's off the table. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, whenever I go down to whether it's DC or whether it's New York or just any of the places that I go to for like interviews and such, one kind of common line that I hear, especially from Democrats, is that they value Canada and they understand kind of why Canada is frustrated. Like that's the obvious thing, just to kind of first set the stage. But the thing is, Democrats don't control any part of the legislature right now. Like all three levels, whether it's the House, the Senate, the White House, they're all controlled by Republicans, and so it's very hard for Democrats to actually do anything about this. But, Democrats talking about whether they take the House in the midterms or whether they're able to, take the White House in 2028, they have made kind of a consistent effort to tell Canadians and tell me in interviews that I've done with them that they understand Canada contributes a lot. They understand that Canada has a lot of lumber, a lot of minerals, a lot of grain, a lot of oil. Like there's a number of things that Canada has that the United States can benefit from.
That they want.
Also a lot
they want it.
And it's also They do. And it's also, a messaging thing as well, because I think if you look to what the Republicans are doing, they're using tariffs to try and portray their strategy as America first. And yet what you see quite regularly now is that the tariffs are being paid by the importers. Like that's a basic fact of tariffs. And it seems as if some people within the Trump administration are trying to manipulate that fact a little bit, because Americans now are starting to see the price of these tariffs. And so they're starting to change their kind of tone from, we really like what Trump is doing because he's putting America first, to, oh, wow, I'm actually the one who's, stuck paying part of this bill. And so I think part of that might be a calculation in terms of changing where the Trump administration goes on this. And I also think after the midterms, depending on how that goes, we might kind of start to see like a real recalibration in terms of how they deal with Epstein and Iran and tariffs and all of these kind of issues that are really, driving their popularity numbers now to, in some cases, below 30%.
Yeah, I mean the lowest that people have seen in the, if I can say, in the modern era. You think something's actually need to be done about Epstein? Should people not give up hope to this point? I mean, you just kind of rolled your eyes as I asked you the question, or at least gave it a shrug. There's a lot of people that don't believe there will ever be justice for survivors in this case, and a lot of people are having a really tough time wrapping their minds around it. It's just reiterating that idea that there's different rules for different folks.
Mm-hmm. And it's really frustrating, I think, for people who are trying to cover this and trying to get accountability on this. I mean, you look to Caitlin Collins, for example, like she has, put some really poignant and important questions to Donald Trump in the Oval Office, and his response is to say she doesn't smile, to say she's a horrible person. And it really is, the kind of common line of response now from this White House to go all out and to go personal when people ask about these basic questions. And so, again, going back to Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had said in a speech recently, she was asking the president about Epstein and saying how, she thinks it's an important issue that needs to be dealt with. And he called her a traitor. He said that if her son got killed, that she deserved it. She said, the president told Marjorie Taylor Greene, even going beyond that part of the reason he can't do it is because his friends are the people who would get hurt. So I think all of it, and the buck stops with Donald Trump. He needs to be the one to release this. And I think the only way that something will be done is if the midterms are an absolute bloodbath for Republicans, which maybe they will be, maybe they won't be. And potentially Donald Trump could be convinced, to make a political calculation to do something about it. But that even seems unlikely at this point.
Wyatt, if people want to catch your first episode and follow along on the journey, if they want to subscribe to the brand new show, The Sharpe Exchange, where's the best place for them to do it? Aside from YouTube, if there's anywhere else, send us there. And what date can we expect to see episode 1 drop?
Yeah, the first episode comes out on May 11th on YouTube. It's the Sharpe Exchange, and we have Anthony Scaramucci, Scott McFarlane, and then our panel of Gen Z contributors as well.
Awesome, brother. We're proud of you, man. I'm serious.
Thank you.
It's just it's so impressive what you're doing. And I've told you this before. At some point, I won't ever mention it again. But less and less every time. Mentioning your vintage, your birth year, your obvious youth, because I think that what you're doing, Wyatt, regardless of your age, is impressive. But the fact that you're doing it while you're not even yet legal to vote just blows my mind. And I know for a fact you continue to impress and inspire this audience. So, buddy, can I say we're proud of you. Congratulations on the new show.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you so much. And thank you always for, amplifying and elevating everything as well. I really appreciate it.
Doors always open to you, brother. Thank you for doing this. You got it. That's Wyatt Sharpe, host of the Sharpe Exchange. Johnny, check this out on his YouTube channel. This is pretty cool. He's got just the one video up. He's got a 26-second video up on his YouTube channel, The Sharpe Exchange. This is like fresh. This is brand new. And episode 1 will drop on May 11th. Real Talkers, go ahead and show Wyatt your support. And this isn't like a, go kind of help the kid out. It's like he's doing incredible journalism. Like his interviews. I don't know. Anyway, let me just leave it at that. We've already realized that Wyatt's a special talent and an individual representing the changing face of journalism, understanding with a really keen awareness of where media is going, and tapping into an entire new generation, inspiring young people. These are the voters, the CEOs, the community league presidents, the mothers, the fathers, the teachers, the politicians of tomorrow. And there is Wyatt Sharpe, sort of building this audience that is growing into adulthood along with him. Anyway, I'm getting a little whimsical here right now, but I'm proud of the guy. It's amazing what he continues to do and getting those big interviews.
Dad.
We got to get Anthony Scaramucci on this show. The Mooch. The Mooch. I want to get to more of your comments, Real Talkers, and we'll circle back. I mean, we sort of bounced around there. The Max Fawcett cameo threw us off a tiny little bit, but that doesn't mean we're not giving you the floor in our live chat here, powered by Park Power, your friendly local utilities provider. So keep the comments coming there. I see this from Ken on the Supreme Court Justice. We haven't spent a ton of time talking about this, but if you missed it or if you're just joining our live stream presented by California Closets, the Prime Minister naming former Supreme Court Justice Louise Arbour as Canada's next Governor General. She's also, by the way, formerly, and she had involvement, John, as a chief prosecutor with the United Nations. So she has global experience. She was prosecuting war times previously in her career, prosecuting war times in Rwanda, in Yugoslavia. She served as the UN Human Rights Commissioner. Of course, the Governor General in Canada serves as the King's representative, the Commander-in-Chief of Canada's armed forces. She's described as one of the most celebrated jurists, this former Supreme Court Justice, one of the most celebrated jurists of her time. She replaces the retiring Mary Simon, who is Canada's first ever Indigenous Governor General, her 5-year term due to end soon. Super Chat Ken here says being disappointed that a previous Supreme Court justice gets the Governor General post regardless of where she fell out of the womb for a ceremonial position is just rage baiting. That's Super Chat Ken's take on this. There had been calls from some Western premiers and other prominent voices in the West to see a Governor General that hails from the West. And I thought it was interesting. As a matter of fact, I wasn't able to do the interview, but our friends at CBC reached out to me yesterday on Ian Hannah-Mansing's show. They said, hey, can you hop on for a few minutes, talk about any connections between the new Governor General and increased Western alienation? And I just went, If you think about it, pretty much anything these days can be tied to Western alienation. Not to suggest that there aren't legitimate concerns about the past relationship. This is the caveat that we offer. Legitimate concerns about the past relationship between Ottawa and the Western provinces, maybe in particular Alberta, over the past decade or so. But does everything have to come back to that? Do the Vancouver Canucks being frozen out of first pick overall in the NHL draft, will that contribute to Western alienation? It'll contribute to the Canucks being alienated from playoffs. I know that much.
Yeah, it's just, you know what? I honestly feel bad for them. It's sad because, the Leafs got Austin Matthews. It was like a godsend. The Oilers got Connor McDavid. It's like a godsend.
Well, the Oilers got like 4 in a row.
The Canucks,
4 anyway.
I know they've had some good players come their way, but they really, and they were trying this year and they still tanked. And I feel like, look, I know people out there who are Oilers fans are not Canuck fans. Same with Leaf fans, they're not Canuck fans. But I want good players to go to Canadian teams. I want more Canadian teams in the playoffs. I want to see, all those teams, all 6, in there with the American teams. I want to see a Canadian team in the final. I don't care who it is. Like this year, do I cheer for the Habs? Heck no. But it'd be great to see them go to the final and maybe win the Stanley Cup. And it betters Canadian hockey. And I know you're like, whatever, Canadian teams are on every team. I get that. But it's nice when Canadian teams are in the mix, right? And I feel like Vancouver, with the people that have left the team, some of the stars that didn't work out in the last few years, and the fact that Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid are 2 phenoms on these other 2 teams, I was like, it'd be great to get McKenna on Vancouver. Then we have like a battle going on, right?
We've got Calgary.
We've got a bunch of phenoms on a bunch of Canadian teams who are in the mix. And this just kind of makes it like, and I know Oilers fans out there and probably all the other teams are like, the fucking Leafs? Are you kidding me, right? But they had a live shot of Vancouver actually during the draft.
Oh, man.
A big party. I don't know what event center they had it at, but it must have been like 1,000, 1,200 people there. And they're all just kids and everything, all in their jerseys, ready. Everyone's riled up, having beers. And like they look up and that little ball comes up and says Leafs. And the look... I was like, at first I laughed, and then I looked at the faces. I was like, this isn't funny. If you're a real fan of your hockey team, this just
it's devastating.
This hurts.
And you got to remember, and we should talk about this more later because I want to talk politics. The audience wants to talk politics, but you remember the Oilers weren't supposed to win, or they weren't favored to win the Connor McDavid lottery.
That was
they got
such
lucky
a day.
that year. And I would also remind folks, and I'm not forecasting this for Gavin McKenna. He appears to be a really special talent, and I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to be lucky to have him. I see some debate should they take that Swedish kid instead. I think that's crazy.
He keeps his gloves clean.
But for every Connor McDavid, there is also a Nail Yakupov.
Yes.
So keep that in mind as well. Number one, I'm not calling this for McKenna. I'm not an idiot. McKenna's a hell of a player. But it's not always guaranteed, right? We've seen first overall picks in past, and you can go back through history. I mean, ask the Ottawa Senators around Alexandre Daig. There's other examples. It doesn't always work.
But I don't know. The guys with the Mick in their name, there's kind of like
McKenna's a beast.
Tell me if I'm wrong. The Mick guys who get drafted first overall in the last 10 years, 20 years, there's just something about the Mick guys.
McKinnon, McDavid. You know what I would say also? The minute that Gavin McKenna punched out the dude in the bar that said something to his mom, his draft stock just went through the roof as well. I think that secured him number one with a bullet. More on that in a moment.
And
of
Connors.
course, we're going to get to
Connors too. Connors have a thing too. You know.
Yeah. Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid. Yeah, look at all these. Now you're the Charlie with the lines and the red yarn everywhere.
I'm just, I'm the guy who's like horoscopes. I'm watching the changing of the moon cycle.
You're our official pop culture
That's how
correspondent.
I bet on sports.
Yeah. Big Jim, by the way, jumping to the Oilers' defense here. He says the Oilers fumbled Yakupov's development so badly. And, Jim, you could definitely make the argument. I always felt bad for Neil Yakupov.
I don't want to do it because I'm still hurt from the playoffs. We'll do it another time, but we could do a whole show on, and I know it's not always their fault, but just the Oilers player, Eberle, all of them that have come and just did not work out.
Get sick to my stomach.
Or went to other teams and then worked out.
Holloway and Broberg.
But not well on Edmonton. It's just, wow.
I feel terrible for everybody in Calgary as well, picking 6th. They were hoping. They had a tough year.
Yeah,
there was a chance that McKenna could have gone to them. Also, a shout out to RS in our live chat as we celebrate Wyatt Sharpe and his entrepreneurship and his innovation and his remarkable launch of this new talk show. Let's also recognize, and thanks to you, RS in the live chat, for flagging this for us, the media mogul who at the time, many, many years ago, was ahead of everybody else in opening CNN. You remember when CNN signed on? I think it was James Earl Jones's voice that you would have heard first. Ted Turner, the founder of CNN, who reshaped global news. Check out my screen here. The Guardian and other outlets around the world reporting that Ted Turner has died today at age 87. The guy who ushered in cable news and introduced the world to 24-hour rage bait. I don't mean to poke fun at someone's passing, obviously. But Ted Turner changed the game, and he deserves credit for that. So there you go. Ted Turner, dead today, 87 years of age. Before we get to our live chat, before we get back into politics, let's remind ourselves of the value of taking a deep breath or two, a breath of fresh air. Sometimes the news cycle can be ominous. Sometimes we need to remind ourselves that not everything has to get our blood pressure up. We do this every Wednesday, courtesy of our friends at Tourism Jasper. It's My Jasper Memories, proudly presented by our friends at Tourism Jasper, incredible champions for what's happening in Canada's crown jewel, that is Jasper National Park. And we talk a lot on this show about what makes a place matter. And it's not just the headlines, it's not just the politics, obviously. It's the stories and the people and the feeling that you get when you're there. And there's something happening in Jasper right now as we speak that touches on all of that. It's called the Uplift Jasper Mural Festival. And before you assume, or perhaps write it off as just another arts event, let me tell you, anything but. Check out this video. This is absolutely amazing. This is a full-on transformation of this mountain town into a living, breathing gallery. World-class artists from right here in Alberta to around the globe, literally painting Jasper's story onto its walls. Big, bold, permanent murals that reflect the spirit of the Rockies, the people who live there, and the culture that connects all of us. And this is what I love about the Uplift Jasper Mural Festival. This isn't just something you go look at. You can actually watch it happen. You can walk the streets. You can meet the artists. You can see these massive pieces come to life in real time. It's raw. It's creative. It's human. And if you've been paying attention, of course, you know that Jasper's been through a lot, right? The fire, the rebuild, the uncertainty. This festival is a big part of Jasper's comeback story. This is about resilience. It's about reclaiming space and saying we are still here and we're creating something beautiful. This isn't just about murals. This is about your Jasper, the trips that you took as a kid, the hikes, the road trips, the moments that stuck with you. This festival is building new memories and also celebrating the ones that you may already carry. So if you're anywhere within striking distance, we encourage you to make the drive. Go see it for yourself. Walk the town. Take it in. Share your Jasper memory with us. Be part of what this place means to people, because that's what keeps it alive. That's what's bringing Jasper back. Look at these murals that Johnny's showing us. This is amazing. You can check out the Uplift. This is the Jasper Mural Festival. You can check out jasper.travel for more. Just click on things to do and you'll see it right there. It runs from the 1st to the 10th of May. So they're about halfway through as we speak. This is one of those things that you'll wish that you didn't miss if you do. You know what I'm saying? And if you do happen to go stroll the streets, and there's a ton of resources there, you can check out a map of where all the murals are happening. You can go check out the past projects. You can get information on the artists themselves. We would love to be tagged in your photos. Hashtag MyJasper, hashtag RealTalkRJ. When you share your Jasper memories, My Jasper Memories is proudly presented weekly, Wednesdays, right here on Real Talk by our incredible friends at Tourism Jasper. Nothing like watching a mural come together. Yeah, I love the ones that come together over like a period of days. I'm always blown away.
Love it. Love street
art.
art.
Those artists do.
Love graffiti. Love painting with spray paint. Love watching it happen. A lot of murals around the city now. If you live downtown or if you've been to downtown Edmonton recently, some of those same artists that go up to Jasper are doing like basically free murals around the city. And what used to be like, don't get me wrong, I'm all about like, you know, hip hop and tagging and all that stuff, but it's covering up some of what you might call like, you know, vandalism, or I don't call it that, but graffiti like that with beautiful hours long painstaking art that every time I turn a corner now, I'm like, there is another 2-story block long mural that somebody poured out. It makes the city look incredible.
Yeah, so
much
cool.
better than a brick wall.
Much better than a brick wall. I love seeing, you know, businesses do this, both in Jasper and elsewhere as well. Businesses that invite and when they're able to compensate, obviously, the artists for doing this. And just the recognition that with that investment in the space, you're making such a huge improvement, not just to your business or not to people's experience in and around your business, but to the entire street, to the entire neighborhood, to the entire community. There's really something cool about it. Also, a lot of other stuff happening in Jasper right now. Of course, we've talked to you about Taste of Spring and everything else. So make sure you check that out. And a big shout out to our friends at Tourism Jasper. On the UCP adjacent or UCP connected individuals, Rob Smith, party president, Aaron Deep Sanduk, comms party exec, virtually attending this online meeting. Not all real talkers are sold on the explanation from the party that they were unaware that the data had been procured illegally. Do I need to say allegedly and illegally? By the way, you can quit sharing my screen. That's just something funny.
Sorry.
That's a personal thing.
Sorry.
That's okay. Do you want to see something funny?
Okay.
Let me load this up for a second. I'm not ready to show it yet. My buddy, this is amazing. So this is my buddy that I went to university with, Jay Lundgren, and he is currently, this is for our BC audience, he has just announced that he's running for mayor of Langley Township.
Yeah, I heard this.
Right? Yeah. And you know what's so funny about this? His
promo video.
Somebody, not Jay himself, not the candidate. I think you can just keep this up right now. Keep the video rolling here. I'm not going to play the voiceover. He's got to pay us for that, John.
Okay.
But there he is at his Walnut Grove High School, and the guy wants to be the next mayor of Langley Township. This next photo. Look, there it is. Look at it. Hey! I made a cameo in this guy's election video. He's trying to get elected, and I wish him the best. Jay's a beauty, and I think that he would do an incredible job serving the people of Langley. That's where I went to university, you may know, at Trinity Western University. But JJ's running for mayor, and a buddy just passed that along to me. He goes, check it out, man. We made a cameo in JJ's election video. So Jay Lundgren running for mayor of Langley. This will be a casual – no, you can't say that. You can't say a casual endorsement. You're either endorsing a guy or you're not. For the real talkers that are listening in from Langley.
So are you?
From Langley. I'm just making the decision right now whether or not I'm going to.
Here,
I'm going to get Jay to buy me a steak dinner for doing it. No, I think it means more if you endorse someone without compensation.
Yeah.
If you endorse someone with compensation, there's zero credibility
to it.
I
was just going to say, I don't know JJ as well as you.
Yes.
But I would like to formally put my support behind him if I love mayors, because they can get rid of parking tickets, and I've got a lot.
Yeah, I think he could.
I'm with you, JJ. I've got a file folder ready for this year's taxes.
Yeah, you're rolling with some leftover tickets from the from the township of Langley.
You try and write them off, and the CRA is like, no, we have gone over this. We have seen that. No, you cannot.
It's so funny, and you know what? Like one of his best pals, one of a very good friend of mine as well, Jack Crompton, is the mayor of Whistler. And so we're slowly kind of like building this coalition in British Columbia of university pals that will carry some heft, carry some sway. So I wish him well. But it's always interesting when people that you've known when you're like 19 years old, 20 years old. Jay was the co-founder. He doesn't want me talking about this as he's running for mayor. It's not like it's a bad thing. Him and another buddy of ours by the name of Luke Favel, both very broad-shouldered fellas, established a competition called Toughest Man on Campus. And it was basically UFC fighting, but the only rule was that you couldn't punch in the face. So because they're all buddies, right? It was like the most moronic entertainment that you could possibly imagine. You got to remember, these are 19 and 20-year-old guys living away from home. But as co-founders of the Toughest Man on Campus, we got to watch those guys leave slap marks on each other's backs.
The TMOC.
Yeah, the TMOC.
Yeah, I love the TMOC fighting organization.
Yeah, I like that. So these two individuals, to get back to the lead story today here on Real Talk, if you're just joining our live stream, presented by California Closets, UCP Party President. I can't say UCP Party. Drives me crazy when people say that. NDP Party, no such thing. It's the UCP President, Rob Smith, Aaron Deepsan, who comms exec, virtually attending a strategy session for the Centurion Project.
Sure.
If you're having a hard time keeping up, I don't blame you. This is the organization led by David Parker that leaked sensitive voter data that betrayed millions of Albertans. Don't forget, David Parker betrayed millions of Albertans by pulling this shitty stunt. And the UCP saying, listen, they were there to observe. They had no reason to believe that this information was obtained surreptitiously. Real Talkers are not buying it for 1 second. They're saying you would have known in that circumstance, based on the information that you were looking at, that there was no way that project should have had access to that data, so it should have been immediately reported. And I know that many people are speculating, because I've seen it online, and I'll go heavy on this speculating, that Alberta's premier, Naheed Nenshi doubling down on this, that Alberta's premier knew about this, that she knew about the data leak and didn't say anything and didn't do anything about it until whom? The Fourth Estate. The journalist, Jen Gerson, brought it to the attention of Elections Alberta, and it went from there. If you missed our one-on-one with Gerson in our most recent episode, May 5th, make sure to check it out. Got a ton of feedback from people that said that was the best interview that they've heard on Real Talk in quite some time.
I'm going to say one thing, and while I'm doing it, why not cue up the short? Because it's just one of our best. Jen is so on point. She's so articulate. She's a bit stern with us sometimes, but we enjoy it.
She's kind of like a...
Well, she doesn't mess around, man.
She doesn't mess around.
No,
she's like that friend that everybody has
it.
that like isn't sort of glib and dismissive.
No,
and...
you call when you're about to get married, you call Jen, and she's like yes or no, and you take her advice. Anyways, what I'm going to say is I'm not implicating the premier or the UCP or anything like that, but to me, an average person who's in media, who's been around PR, you're the same way. Been around politicians, been at bars when everyone's... There is, in my mind, there's no way that someone connected to the UCP or connected to the premier didn't get wind of this. And to me, it's a fault for them not stepping in and saying, hey, we heard about this. Do not frickin' do this. You are going to paint us in a can of red. This is going to reflect on us badly. Someone should have stepped in. And even if they didn't know during, like the fact that it just, to me, it's fishy. To me, it's just fishy that like someone was in on a meeting. Jason Kenney's personal information was on a screen. Like, not
only was it on the screen in this video meeting, but the video was released. And so there's video out there with Jason Kenney's address on it. People are, and this is one of those circumstances, I oftentimes will joke with you, Real Talkers. You hear me say it a few times a year to a guest, like, let me make it all about me. And then we're like, ha, ha, ha. Jespersen, the egomaniac, makes everything all about him. That's kind of the running joke. But in this case, I'm like, my address is out there.
Yeah.
I have a family.
Yeah.
Some of the comments that people leave on my social media posts are nothing short of unhinged. And several of them would certainly qualify as threats. And you only need one person, you only need one threat to be real, to materialize, to have a disaster on your hands.
Yeah.
And so, we take steps as a family because, I've been in media for 20 years. This isn't my first rodeo. I was a flagship talk show host on AM radio in Alberta, for fuck's sake. So we've had security cameras and alarms and dogs and everything else that you would have. We're not paranoid, but we're pragmatic and we're realistic. But at the same time, it's unnerving to know that there are people that hate what Real Talks. Guys, read our comments. Like, go read what people put on YouTube. Read some of the stuff in our live chat. Read what people tweet at me. Like, and I'm not trying to make it all about me, but when it lands with me personally, I will share with you, the audience, what's going on even between my two ears and where my head's been at and conversations that I've had with my wife and with my family over the past couple of days, because you never know. Like, is there a talk show in Alberta that is speaking out more strongly against Alberta separatists? I don't think so. So is there a target on my back? Maybe.
Yeah.
Is there a target on Jason Kenney's back? Is there a target on Rachel Notley's back? Is there a target on Naheed Nenshi's back? Is there a target on Carrie Tate's back? Is there a target on Amber Bracken, the photojournalist? I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas. Not to mention the survivors of domestic violence, not to mention the judges, not to mention the police officers, not to mention Crown prosecutors. Do you get the idea? Like, these are just a few examples of people, myself included, who would never put their personal information in a phone book. I told you I grew up in a house. Our family's information was never in the phone book because my dad was a physician for 40 years, and my dad loves his patients. My dad was an incredible physician, an attentive physician. If anything, what I remember of my dad is when he was on call, in particular when he was working in obstetrics, leaving the house at 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 3 a.m. My dad's patients always had my dad when they needed him. But you didn't want your patients calling you at home, and you didn't want your patients showing up at your house.
No.
And so I grew up in a home where privacy was greatly valued and our personal information was never shared. And we would continue that tradition if phone books were even a thing anymore. But for this to happen, and to know that someone, David Parker or whoever was connected to it, made that executive decision on your behalf to release your information to everybody should piss you right off, regardless of how you vote. For that matter, regardless of how you feel about Alberta separation.
100%.
And it is incredible to me, though not surprising, shocking but not surprising, to see people simp for David Parker and for this Centurion Project online, continuing to justify what they have allegedly done. Because it is brutal and it is inexcusable, it's insulting, and it is a betrayal to the people of Alberta. And nobody should forget that this individual and this group did not hesitate when they had a chance to betray the millions of people that they claim to serve. Nobody should forget that.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, it was only up so long and blah, 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 but how many people looked, how many people copied information? I mean, my partner, the last place we lived before this one, she's an Indian woman. We got a racist comment tagged on our garage door, and it's one of the reasons we moved. And then to think that she's a voting person, that her... it scared her too. But what I'm saying is all these people screaming, saying it's a nothing burger, it's a nothing burger. It amazes me because I'm like, dude, your name is on this list too. This involves you. This involves everyone in our chat right now. It involves everyone probably listening right now who's listening in Alberta to this podcast today on their drive home. Maybe it's tomorrow. Maybe you're listening live right now. Your name and address were given out. And I know it's not hard to, if you did some searching, find someone's address if you really want it. But I don't want...
That's not the point.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want mine readily available, searchable on a database where people clearly, this website, have gripes with 70% of the other voting people in the province right now. So to me, this wasn't, David Parker and the Centurion Project campaigned it as it was a way for people to connect, like-minded people. Bullshit. We all know what this was. This was a way to dox people, and it's the same people who scream every day about cancel culture and doxing, and you mentioned my daughter's name
privacy
in a tweet,
rights,
and all this bullshit all day long, and now they're like, get over it. It means nothing. This means everything.
Well,
this is the biggest thing that's ever happened data-wise, doxing-wise in Alberta ever.
This, by the way, is also worth noting that just because the database has been pulled from their website doesn't mean they don't still have the database. It doesn't mean they can't still share it with grease balls everywhere. It doesn't mean that this problem has gone away. The information is out there. The horses has left the barn. And to a certain degree, and then sometimes this happens in life, in politics, and elsewhere, there's nothing we can do about it. The only question is, where do we go from here? What are the consequences? Who's responsible? What does accountability look like? Because as much as I hate to say it, the information is out there. I want to read what Real Talkers have to say about this. Erica, thanks for your YouTube channel membership, Erica, by the way, says David Parker doxing Jason Kenney shows just how much of a douchebag he is, as if we needed another reason. Ambustion says my wife is a psychologist and has some clients and ex-husbands of clients that absolutely cannot know where we live. Absolutely, Ambustion. I can feel your concern. I understand that. I mean, to me, I understand why people are throwing their hands up right now and feeling sick about this. We should get what Gerson had to say about this in a recent episode of the show. If you missed it, I'm going to play the short for you in just a second. But first things first, Johnny, I'm heading over to host at the beautiful Windspear Center today for our friends at iHuman, an incredible youth organization, their annual celebration. And this is like basically a showcase of youth talent and just the incredible young people that are participating in iHuman's programming. I'm honored to be there, and I am rocking this brand new blazer. I'm loving it. The colors of spring, my friends. Where do you think I picked this up? You already know the answer. I walked in. I said to Chad Helm, at the Helm Clothing, I need to look my best. At this iHuman event at the Windspear, it needs to look casual. It's an arts organization, but it also needs to pass the muster of Real Talkers in the morning. This is what the team at the Helm does for me, and it's what they can do for you, friends. Help you look your best when it matters most. With luxury casual offerings plus fully custom, the best brands going are represented, in many cases exclusively, at the Helm. You can read their blog on the 10 outfits for spring and summer 2026. I love this, not just how fashion is rolling out, but how it's meant to be worn. And so they give you different scenarios like modern prep refined. I love this, like a tailored Damascena blazer paired with relaxed denim, a classic shirt. There you go. Perfect for the workplace or maybe summer patio parties. What about modern prep relaxed, right? A rugby layered over the shoulders, tailored shorts, boat shoes. That's a great way to look good on vacation or just even here at home. That's kind of a farmer's market look right there, maybe. They've got everything featured there. You can check it all out online. And don't forget, when you're shopping online at thehelmclothing.com, the promo code REALTALK is going to knock 10% off your entire order. That's a big deal. Keep that money in your pocket. The promo code REALTALK, all one word, at thehelmclothing.com, takes 10% off. Just in time for Stampede. Check that out. Refined Western, understated. How suede, denim, and tonal depth can come together. On the heels of the Met Gala, I love talking like this, Johnny. This is giving Calgary Stampede urban celebratory vibes. How is that? Again, that's the promo code REALTALK at thehelmclothing.com. Our friends at Friesen Brothers reminding you that Mother's Day coming up this weekend, they've got you covered. If you don't yet have a plan, or even if you do, if you're not sold on your plan, why not take mom for brunch at Friesen Brothers? Nobody does it like Friesen Brothers. They've been helping families gather around the table for more than 70 years. And their Mother's Day brunch this weekend, that's May 9th and 10th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., shout out to Friesen Brothers for running brunch till 4 p.m. They get us. They really get us. This exquisite brunch at Friesen Brothers includes an all-you-can-eat buffet for just $30 a person, banana bread French toast, mini quiche, breakfast sausage, and a whole lot more. Treat mom to a delicious day. Join Friesen Brothers for a brunch experience that mom will never forget. This is available at Friesen Brothers in Barhead, Drumheller, both Edmonton locations, Fort Saskatchewan, High Prairie, Hinton Hill, Peace River, and our friends and family in Stony Plain. $30, all you can eat, Mother's Day, May 9th and 10th at Friesen Brothers. More details online at Friesen.com. That's Freson.com. And before we get to the highlight from our most recent episode and more on what Real Talkers have to say, I need to remind you why we are so proud here at Real Talk, our parent company Relay, to be members of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. It strengthens our business and it helps us support the community. There's an advocacy impact with the Chamber. You can find that on their website, edmontonchamber.com. Get a sense on how the Chamber is advocating for its members so that you can focus on your business. That's what everybody's needing to do, right? You get it. If you own or operate a business, you can't be banging on the doors of government. You need to know that there's an organization doing that on your behalf. Find who represents you. Learn more about the Chamber's advocacy and, of course, check out upcoming events, including in Edmonton, Mayor Andrew Knack's first ever State of the City address presented by EPCOR. I'm honored to be hosting it. That's the 14th of May. My mom's birthday, by the way. Sorry, Ma. I'm going to be with the mayor of Edmonton. We're going to be checking out what Mayor Max's vision looks like for the Metro Edmonton region, in particular for the capital city. Again, that's May 14th, presented by EPCOR and the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. Get your tickets today at edmontonchamber.com. I see a yellow square pop up in our super chat. That means that, look at that, Matthew kicking in $10 to the show. Matthew, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Matthew says more questions need to be asked about the Centurion Project's claim that their app was presented to the White House a few weeks ago. Yeah, I saw that too. I wonder if that's just about as serious as Jeff Rath meeting with senior State Department officials in Washington, D.C. I don't know. We need more transparency. Can we agree on that? Either, through complying or otherwise, Albertans are starting to demand more as the greasiness of this entire situation continues to amplify itself. John, I'm going to head over to our Real Talk YouTube channel.
Can I mention something before we get away from the ads?
Sure.
Your mother's birthday is May 14th?
Is your mom's birthday May 14th?
May 12th.
Really?
Guy.
We got to get our moms together.
Now we can
We got to take our moms on a trip.
Look, I hope my moms aren't listening, but this is a two birds, one stone moment where, like, 1 year you can buy both the presents and then the next year I'll buy both the presents and send them out. Come on.
I've seen Mama Hicks fashion
both
sense.
Healthcare professionals or adjacent to healthcare.
Yeah.
This could be this could be an ease of use kind of thing.
Real Talkers, the very first time I meet Mama Hicks in person, she walks into the studio. Obviously, her proud son just beaming as he escorts her here into our historic Mercer Warehouse studio. And the very first thing I notice, she's rocking a Burberry scarf. I was
she's in retirement era.
I was like, she gets what's up. Mama Hicks knows what's up. No one should be surprised. Look at you.
No, she worked hard for 40. She's going to listen now and be like, I was 37 or whatever. 40 years, I always say. We went to the mall and, she treats herself, but she also she's still down to earth. She still buys cotton tees from H&M for $12, but she's living life. She's relaxed now.
Yeah, I like that. She deserves to relax in her retirement, as does everybody else, including those of you who join us.
She
by
just
the way,
texted me.
yeah, of
I'm
course,
listening.
she's like, stop talking to me, right? Stop talking about me right now. James is watching us. He's watching our live stream thanks to California Closets on Facebook, and James says the lunatic fringe of Alberta was given illegal open access to our private information. Those yahoos had no right to release that information. James, you're 100% correct. He says the UCP people that were in the room, they were in the room, they were online joining a meeting, but still, I'll take your point, James. He says they had an obligation to notify authorities to report what was happening, but they chose to do nothing, and the reporting was left to the NDP.
I agree.
Cindy, by the way, says this is completely unacceptable, says there should be jail time and a class action lawsuit. I agree on both.
I just think, Ryan, you and me, we both know, come on. The UCP, whoever was in on, they're smart people. You can't tell me they were looking at this screen and seeing what was being able to be accessed by these people and didn't think, we might have a problem here. This seems a little fishy to me. This seems like something, if you showed the majority of the population, they'd have a problem with. They must have gotten that feeling. If they didn't, then they're incompetent.
Glenna, by the way, says we need Friesen Brothers in BC. 100% right, Glenna. We're fighting to get you guys Friesen Brothers down in Calgary right now, okay? I am your personal advocate. I'm not around the table there, we break bread every once in a while. But I do continue to advocate for Calgary. And as soon as we're done there, Glenna, we'll work on BC. That's my word to you. Johnny, I'm checking out the Real Talk Ryan Jespersen YouTube channel. Gosh, could you guys get us to 40,000 subscribers? Could you help us out with that? We're getting close. If you haven't yet subscribed, it's free. I mean, you can become a YouTube channel member and enjoy a bunch of perks. Like, for example, in the next 48 hours, our YouTube channel members, our Patreon supporters, are going to have a shot at Edmonton Opera tickets. We're also going to make a pair of opera tickets available to a general audience draw. Thanks to our friends at Edmonton Opera, you can get your tickets to Siegfried right now at edmontonopera.com. Runs May 25th through the 31st. But we would love to see, these are our free subscribers. You pop by, you subscribe. That gives you notifications when we're live, when we've posted new content. We'd love to get that to 40,000 if we could by the end of the month. Thanks in advance for helping us out with that. It's where you can check out our full episodes. It's where you can also check out our shorts and our highlights, including this from Jen Gerson. Here's the best 90 seconds from her full interview with us on the 5th of May.
What's happening right now is nothing short of a democratic coup. Smith brought this upon herself. She has brought this fire upon all of us. 70% of the province has no interest in engaging in this vote. These people do not have a democratic mandate to force such a serious and consequential vote on the rest of us. And yes, I am absolutely concerned that this could wind up being a Brexit vote, where you have a lot of people voting to separate from Canada because they stupidly think that that's going to be a way to send a message to Ottawa with no understanding or appreciation for the consequences of either holding the vote in the first place or what would happen if they won. You can't put the cat in the bag, but you can say, no, we can't hold a succession referendum under these conditions. That's crazy town. I don't think the Elections Alberta has the democratic legitimacy to run a succession referendum at present. I don't think it's going to have the legitimacy to run that until we know it is properly funded and that its investigative mandate has been restored appropriately. Whether you want to blame the government or Elections Alberta is irrelevant to me. That's just the reality of where we are today. I don't care what Danielle Smith says anymore. I only watch what she does. I'm not remotely interested in what Danielle Smith claims to be or claims not to be. If Danielle Smith says that she's a federalist, but she acts like a separatist, then she's a separatist by default. She doesn't need to shut them down. She doesn't need to put them in a box. She can just say, look, there's an appropriate path for them to go, and it's not here. Start a party, stand candidates, win an election on an explicitly separatist mandate. If you can do that, then you have no complaints from me. Then I think you have the legitimacy to run this vote. But anything short of that is chicanery, and it's a coup, and it's an undermining of our democratic process by a minority of Albertans who know very well that if they just get enough people outraged into the polls, that they can force a kind of Brexit referendum that a lot of people are going to wind up getting hurt by, and a lot of people are going to wind up regretting on October 20th. If your argument for why she can't do that is because it would split her party, then what you're effectively arguing is that the maintenance of the UCP is more important than the country. You have to be open and honest about what you believe and what you stand for. Okay, that's all I'm asking any of these guys. If these guys are serious about separatism and they think that this is a viable path forward, then why are you using what's happening?
Then they say basically it kind of cut off there at the end, but she basically says, why are you using sort of these deceptive tactics?
Why'd it cut off?
I don't know. You look so troubled by it.
I'm so pissed about this right now.
I gotta let the audience know your attention to you guys. Like, can you please take your wide shot? Can you please take the producer's camera for a second? Let me just point something out.
YouTube has a time limit, and this one was very close. It was
very close to the time limit.
So yeah.
But can you just keep yourself on your camera for a second? Are you guys surprised that a guy with that haircut and that beard line is frustrated when something doesn't work out absolutely perfectly? This man's attention to detail. I've never met somebody whose shirt is more perfectly tucked in than yours, John Hicks.
I have OCD, but I make spelling mistakes. I made some in the chat today. People were laughing at me. But don't think it doesn't bother me, okay?
It bothers you. It eats you
alive. I'm average, but I try to be above average.
JJ says any person with basic morals. He's talking about these. He's talking about Aarondeep Sandhu and Rob Smith. By the way, I know Aarondeep Sandhu personally. Okay, so I am going to disclose that. I've not spoken with him about this, but Aarondeep's been appearing on talk shows that I've hosted for I've known the guy for 15 plus years, so I am familiar with him personally. And they were virtually attending this virtual meeting, right, where Centurion Project organizers were explaining how this all works. And so what the Alberta NDP did is they basically just got screen grabs showing, how if you're in any online meeting or a group Zoom call, and it will show your handle or your name. It'll be like, here's the people that are watching. If you join like an Instagram, like for those of you Real Talkers that are watching the show live right now on Instagram, for example, thanks to California Closets, it would show, you could see like who's watching on the live stream. That's what the NDP did. They screen grabbed the fact that Rob Smith and Arandeep Sandhu were there. Then they asked the UCP publicly, did Naheed Nenshi, to confirm that it was the same. I mean, Rob Smith. How many Rob Smiths in Alberta? Probably several. Arandeep Sandhu, potentially the same thing. They asked them to confirm whether or not it was the two of them. The UCP said, yes, it was. We read you the statement earlier this episode, and then said, but they had no reason to believe that there was anything fishy. That's my paraphrase. JJ says, any person with basic morals and a reasonable understanding of right and wrong should know that publishing people's personal information is wrong. Like, what does that tell you? These aren't reasonable people. You're 100% right. And I think that it's important for us to establish that we're not going to take it, right? Like, there are people in this province right now fighting to destroy Canada, fighting to fuck Alberta, basically, is what they're fighting to do, because this is, for now, their understood best avenue for the airing of their grievances, or, for those of you auto enthusiasts, this is their blow-off valve, right? They need somewhere to channel whatever they're angry about. Their kids don't talk to them anymore. They haven't been able to find work for a while, or the cost of living is going up, which is no laughing matter. But they've been sold a line that life's going to get easier, life's going to get more affordable, that you're going to experience another and bigger boom economically and otherwise if Alberta leaves, right? And so at any and all cost, they're going to go ahead and pursue this goal. And they're doing it by intimidating people, or attempting to intimidate people, including journalists and politicians. They're doing it surreptitiously. They're doing it secretly. They're doing it without a moral compass guiding the process, and with very little accountability up until somebody blew the whistle on this, up until this story went public. Keep in mind, and let's celebrate, I don't know who you are, but whoever it was that anonymously tipped off Jen Gerson, who then reached out to Elections Alberta, who then a couple of weeks later got the ball rolling on all of this, whoever that anonymous tipster was to Jen Gerson, the people of Alberta should ensure that you never pay for your beer again, right? I understand why you may want to remain anonymous, but thank you for that. And I hope that you hear this. But this needs to be a reminder to everybody of what's at stake and what the bad actors are willing to do to make it happen. Okay? We cannot shy away from that truth, and we must not back down. We must stand strong, despite the fact that it makes us nervous, despite the fact that it can be unnerving. There is strength in numbers, and the majority of people in Alberta do not stand for this, will not tolerate this, and want to stay in Canada. Keep reminding yourself, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. Was it like me or love me?
Yeah, love's too far. It's like me.
Oh, shit. Okay. That's too bad. It should be everybody loves me. People love me. Alberta Girl says somebody with a conscience sent that recording to the NDP. 80s Fanify says Danielle Smith needs to resign. Kenzie, who may be typing, tongue firmly planted in cheek, says, thank God for the NDP. Saved the day again. RS says there are people involved in the separation movement who have no care in the result. It is all about the grift and taking people's money. 100%. It's a data gathering exercise too, by the way. You watch what Western Standard and Rebel Media is doing right now, guys. I don't know about your feed. My feed is polluted with ads from the Western Standard, paid ads. Do you believe, along with us, Derek Fildebrandt's going full separatist, Western Standard going full separatist. Sign up here, subscribe here, give us this, give us that. It's a good racket. It's a good racket. Tracy says most professionals know that privacy laws are important, and I don't believe for a second that UCP staffers were not aware of this. Tony wonders, to the apologists, do you think that this government actually cares about you and your family? They will and have already trampled on you, and they don't give a shit. TC, by the way, says that they really love that clip of Jen Gerson. Says, we are in a constitutional democracy. If you are unhappy, pack up and move, or use the system to elect folks that you want. And how cool is this from Kyle, who's watching us on Facebook? Says that moment. This is cool. That moment when you see that Ryan kid you went to Glenmore Christian Academy with has his own radio show. Kyle says, nice to see your success. Kyle, nice to run into you on Facebook. What a blast from the past. Much love to you. Tara Lynn, by the way, says, Johnny is brilliant. We appreciate you.
Not true.
She says, what a team. What a team. And Cassandra says, what we should be talking about is that for a question to be legit, it has to follow the Clarity Act. She's talking about the referendum, and it has to be approved by Parliament, not Danielle Smith. Glenna says Albertans that do not want the rug pulled out from under them need to get loud. Glenna, you are 100% correct. And Tara Lynn, I'm glad that what I was attempting there landed with you. She says, I've now got Twisted Sister in my head. We're not going to take it. I like that. I like that. Trav Toxiag says, God bless that whistleblower. JJ needs a nap, says the whistleblower on this has some kind of moral compass. More of that is needed. Kenzie, by the way, says, wow, Ryan, just be real clear. You're talking about one person, one group, not an entire movement.
Yeah, I love that argument because every time there's a grifter online, on Twitter, I'm not going to mention any names because I don't even want to put spotlight on them, who puts up a post about separation, or anytime a group online puts up something about how signatures were gained, and you look at the comments underneath, hundreds of them, sometimes thousands, and all the usernames are Free and Independent Alberta, Save Alberta, Alberta Separation. They're all agreeing. They're all giving thumbs up, and a lot of them are saying horrible things. So to say that this is one person, one movement, I don't know, because I see there's a Venn diagram that overlaps with all these people who are doing egregious things or saying horrible things on the internet and telling everyone else to go F themselves.
Yeah, I'll be clear that, like, Kenzie and to everybody else, like, when I check in on the live chat, like, a lot of times I've either stopped our live chat, I've paused it because there's a couple comments I want to read, and then the show continues, and sometimes then I'll scroll forward, right? So I don't know exactly what I was saying when you left that comment. But generally speaking, and I've said this many, many times, maybe it's worth me saying it once an episode, just so we are clear. But I think this audience knows personal friends of mine, some close friends of mine, family members of mine, support Alberta separation, support Alberta sovereignty, have signed the petition. I've shared personally about the impact of that. I've talked a lot about what COVID did in dividing friend groups and how I see Alberta separation doing the same thing. And obviously not every Alberta separatist is a piece of shit.
No, but to say it's one.
But when we're talking about these organized efforts to, like, leak data and develop this database and put this website out and teach people how to use it and torque the whole process and basically sort of cloak and dagger your way through the whole thing, this is not one mastermind. And there is a large group of people. There's a let me not say large, but there is a significantly sized group of people that have their hands filthy around this. And let's not pretend that this is one person. So yeah, not all separatists, hashtag not all separatists. Sure. I don't think that anybody in their right mind would assume that I'm calling every single Alberta separatist a greasy fuck. Sorry for my language, Mrs. Hicks, Mrs. J, moms watching today into Mother's Day weekend. But if I know anything about our moms as well, they would know that when the situation calls for it, let's call a spade a spade. And there are people right now that are betraying the province of Alberta and willingly lead it on a road to ruin. It's like having a lunatic behind the wheel of a city bus that's intent on crashing that bus into a concrete barrier because they want to prove a point, and whatever carnage ensues is not going to be their problem because in many circumstances they're not even going to be here to see it. So let's not pretend. This data leak, Johnny, I mean, I already had strong feelings about Alberta's future in Canada. I've already had strong feelings about what David Parker's been doing. We've already had strong feelings about the influence that some of these minority, I'm not going to say fringe, you guys don't like that word, minority groups. You do not represent the majority of the population. The majority of the population is not calling for like birth certificate checks on elementary and junior high school female athletes. The majority of the population doesn't want Margaret Atwood and George Orwell pulled off library shelves, right? The majority of the population was not demanding that the provincial government crack down on the flags that were flying outside schools. The majority of the population is not egreged that the provincial government doesn't have more say on the appointment of court judges. This is not the majority of people. The majority of people in Alberta are hoping to see Alberta's businesses continue to seek new markets and find new opportunities and navigate difficult economic circumstances. The majority of people in Alberta need their groceries to be affordable and need the housing market to be accessible. The majority of people in Alberta don't want their commutes to take 55 minutes one way. The majority of people in Alberta want fire trucks and cop cars to be at their house if necessary within 4 to 6 minutes. The majority of people in Alberta want their drinking water to be clean. The majority of people in Alberta want the air that they're breathing to be clean, right? That's what the majority wants. So let's be clear. Like, people have been frustrated about the influence that these minority groups have had on this government for quite some time. But this story, this week, the data breach, the leak, the betrayal of millions of Albertans has changed the narrative, and it has reiterated to everyone, including the host of this show. That's me. I kind of took a Rick Bell style there for a minute, including your scribe, including your host.
Oh, God.
But it has served as a reminder of what's at stake and what people are willing to do to drive this province out of Confederation, and we're not going to let it happen.
I hate when people say scribe. I just don't like it. The guy with the scroll. Lunatics in plural, Ryan. This is the last thing I'm going to say today, and we got to go because we got to record a second show today.
We do.
I'm not sure. Lunatics. But when people say it was one person, how many people were on the email thread? You had to exchange this data somehow. Do you think they did it on a USB? No. It was sent probably in a PDF or whatever it is. I don't know. How many people were on the email thread? How many people told other people in the Centurion Project or in the whatever? How many people were in that room when they had a projector with Jason Kenney's personal information? This is not one person. This is handfuls of people, hundreds of people, perhaps even 1,000 people who all knew. So, like, when you say this is one person who made a mistake in one group, that's anyone with average intelligence knows that's BS.
Greasy fucks has really resonated in our live chat.
Whenever
right
you
now.
say it, I'm like, I'm going to do a whole short.
Should be our band name.
I'm going to clip everything potentially, over the line that Ryan said one day. I'm going to clip it. And when this show dissolves, that's going to be the goodbye short. Mm-hmm. You saying, you greasy fuck.
But I don't want to be like, I had some fun with a lady. I mean, maybe she's a lady. I don't know. Maybe she's like a 19-year-old pimple popping Russian gamer in his basement. I don't know. But the profile pictures of a lady, and it did show me that the X account was established in 2008. Yeah. So that's a little bit different. It's not like these pop-up accounts where it's like the account all of a sudden has 100,000 followers and it popped up yesterday and it's bots, they're paying for their followers. But this lady yesterday was just she was in my mentions like syphilis. Yeah. Like, she was just popping up everywhere, and every comment that she left ended with asshole or jackass or you know what I mean? It was like all this. And so I click on her profile and you know what her banner says? God is with us. And I just thought, geez, lady, I've met more committed, that whole idea about letting your light shine, that's not what they're talking about.
Kumbaya, my Lord. Here's the thing. There's people in here that I think are dinks. You're watching right now, and I think you're a dink. And I go look at their profile. I see their picture.
Double
and I'm like,
income, no kids?
No. You know what I mean? And I go look at their profile sometimes when they send me a DM or they yell at me on Twitter or whatever it is. And I say, you know what? This looks like a normal person with a family, whatever. And then sometimes I meet these people. I've seen you at events, and you're not screaming asshole at me or Ryan. You're having a normal conversation.
You want to get punched in the mouth.
At a volume that's acceptable. You know what I think this is? I just want all these people who want Alberta separation, who are in these groups, who are saying crazy, mean things online. Just look at yourself in the mirror. Because I see you at events. I see you wherever. You're not this crazy person that you portray online. Just think about what you're going to do. Listen to Jen Gerson short. Listen to what people are saying, the majority of Albertans who are like, hey, I don't give a shit about any of this. I care about my kid having a good education. I care about my savings. I care about healthcare. I care about, all these people we have living on the street, addicted to drugs, crime in my city. They don't give a rat's ass about separation. And you may think you do. You may think you know everything. Just look at Brexit. Look at all the people who are smarter than everyone on this podcast today who are saying financially will ruin this country. Or at the very least the province that is released from the country. Just think about what you're doing.
And let's not say released. The province that pulled itself out of the country like an absolute idiot.
I love this province. I don't want to be released. I don't want to be pulled out.
What was the story? I'm putting you on the spot here, but wasn't there before Ringo Starr?
A lot of sexual references today.
Before
pull out.
Don't say the other one.
David Parker's initials
Don't
are DP
say the other
and
one.
He's trying to F us.
I'm about to go into a sponsor mention. Now I got to create another 30 seconds of buffer because I've already, I can't go with the. Anyway, we do have a quota on how many times I can say greasy fucks in an episode, so I've hit the quota. Ingrid, thank you for your incredible contribution by way of our super chat. That really means a lot to us. She says, thank you, Ryan. I'm one of those majority people. Others of you are saying, Jespo, say it loud and proud. We will, and you say it with us, right? Here's the platform, right? Here's the show, okay? The show has planted its flag, and you know what we're all about. Let us know what you're all about. You can send us an email anytime to talk@ryanjespersen.com. We received an essay from a real talker. I've reviewed it. It's incredible. I'm going to bring that to you on either Thursday or Friday. A lot of you are sending us quick hits as well. This week's Flamethrower, that'll be on our Friday episode. That's going to be the 8th of May, presented by our amazing buddies at the DQs of Northwest Edmonton and Sherwood Park. That's Palisades, Nemeo, Newcastle, Westmount, Baseline Road. Go show them your support. It's basically, you can imagine the Flamethrower this week is going to be off the hook. It's going to be bonkers, and I love that. But, we make a commitment to you that we're not going to pull punches. We're going to say what we think, and we're going to continue to cover the issues that matter most to Albertans, to Western Canadians, to our fellow Canadians across the country. And this is a story that, for obvious reasons, should be concerning everybody. You and I made a promise to each other that we were done with 2-hour episodes, yet here we are. There's just a ton to talk about, friends. So sorry, not sorry. Thanks to everybody who's checked this out. Before we go, I want to let you know, and I do believe that this is going to land with somebody who needs to hear it. If you are in charge in your organization, whether you're in the hospitality, retail, road building, construction, home building industry, whatever it is, if you're looking to hire motivated, supported youth or entry-level workers that you can rely on, that you can count on, you have to check out ucan.ca. UCAN Youth Services is a nonprofit charitable organization with decades of history, proof of performance, helping young people out of harm's way and onto a path of economic independence. They've got a brand new, beautiful downtown youth empowerment center where young people 18 to 25 are accessing supports, building skills, stepping into new opportunities, and you can become a partner. Address your staffing woes, strengthen your team in your workplace, and give a young adult a chance at a bright future. They are full of potential. They're motivated. They're hungry. They're ready to go. You can contact UCAN today at ucan.ca. Let them know that you heard about it on Real Talk. And before we sign out, a reminder that our next episode of the show will feature Alberta Wins. We've already got this one locked and loaded for this week. A very cool out-of-this-world announcement, if you will. A big Alberta win. You can send us your story of an Albertan. It could be an individual or a group. Maybe it's a researcher. Maybe it's a lemonade stand that's making a big impact in the world around them. Alberta Wins every Thursday, proudly presented by our friends at Play Alberta. Alberta wins with Play Alberta because all revenue stays in the province, and that makes all the difference. Play Alberta is the only app in the province, the only one that puts all revenue directly back into supporting programs and services that Albertans rely on every day. So whether you play, bet, or buy with casino, sports, or lottery, come on, 649, know that your fun also helps make a difference across the province. You can visit playalberta.ca/realtalk to learn more. That's playalberta.ca/realtalk. You'll find some exclusive incentives there. Of course, you got to be 18 or over to play, and if you gamble, please use your game sense. Les in our live chat right now wondering, and I'm sure he's joking, it's all caps. He's going, what's Danielle Smith's address? What's David Parker's address? As Les is very effectively pointing out, everybody could just go ahead and find that out, couldn't you? Not encouraging you to do so, but that's the point. Nobody's information is safe. We'll continue our coverage of this story and others, and before this week is done, we will also celebrate the incredible achievements, a major honor for a Canadian photojournalist that you've seen on this show before. Amber Bracken is off to Harvard on an esteemed fellowship. We're going to take a look at the work that she's been doing, learn a little bit more about what makes her tick. That's before week's end. Let us know what you think about what you just heard, and thanks for sharing. We appreciate you, Real Talkers.
Real Talk is hosted by Ryan Jespersen, executive producer Josh Dunford, technical producer John Hicks, general manager Katie Cook-Chivers, account coordinator Lauren Sterlego, human resources Lena Shepard, website design Mike Johnston, voiceover by me, Carrie Skelton, member emerita Julie Rohr. Real Talk is recorded in Edmonton, Alberta on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux, home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta. Real Talk is a relay project. For more, check out ryanjespersen.com.